All
Truth
right,
tellers.
here we go. 3, 2, 1. You're live. Hello, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show for you. We're going to talk about human origins, the nature of our culture, where we come from. Indigenous Peoples Month is in November, and we're going to explore that all the way up to Thanksgiving. So the whole month we're going to be looking into that and how it affects you with my co-host Dalibor Suchy. Thank you for coming.
Good to be here.
Absolutely. And if any of you have anything to contribute, put it in the chat. And if you want to come on and you got something really good to contribute, you want to be on with us, just let me know. I will send you a link and you can come on and join us because there's only 2 of us tonight. But anyway, I want to talk about Big Al and his cards. I think I got the thing pulled up here somewhere. I did. Yes. And remember everybody that he had the cards, and I want to let y'all know real quick that he
Yes,
did these.
I have them.
No, these are the angel cards.
Oh yeah, I have the original ones that he designed.
Yeah. But these are going to be the deck. And remember, everybody, these are the ones he designed himself. If you want a deck of cards, go to the Crystal Network. I think I got it pinned below on in the description. The Oracle cards. These are wonderful cards. I know he's going to be happy to see me put these up because I know a lot of people order decks. I did too. Hopefully, they got the things on the back of the cards. It's going to be really nice, everybody. I know people enjoy the Milky Way Soul Tribe cards. Hopefully these cards you'll enjoy just as much. So with that said, that's one part of our show, but I want to say a big shout out to Mina the Mystic, who had a great costume party show on the 31st. And I was happy to join her where Isby, dressed as the wizard, won the big prize. And for the costume contest. If you haven't seen that show, go over there, check it out. And it was fun. We all dressed up. Even if you click on it and go there and see how we were all dressed, because I'm not going to give you any more than that. You'll have to see for yourself. Big shout out to Teresa and Lori for doing their thing on A7. Great shows, girls. You're doing good. Thank you for all you do. Lucky Stone is in the house. He says, good evening, all. Yes. Yeah. He's going to be joining me later this month and with Courtney for some kind of a Thanksgiving thing, and it'll be a big surprise. And Pamela Jean is in the house. Andrew Phillips, thank you for coming too. Pamela, you are going to enjoy this one. Elderberry's happening tonight too. Thank you for coming. We got the whole crowd pouring in. So I'm sure everybody's excited just as much as I am to know how things are going there in Germany area, because, they were, that's all we hear on the news. Oh my God, Europe is going to collapse. Food prices are going up. People are going to be freezing in their houses. Can you give us a scoop on it firsthand?
Well, yeah, it's pretty much all true, but a lot of those news reports are exaggerated. While I did have to pay 3,500 euros as a debt that to the gas company, the electrical company, and the water company because they raised the rates. So that's basically what I owed them. So we'll see what I have to pay at the end of the year, because it's usually you pay deposits and then at the end of the year they figure out if the deposits are more or less than what you owe. Based on that, they either refund you the money or they make you pay more. But one thing seems to be kind of strange with the gas. I think they're diluting the gas with like regular air, because I kept the settings for the boiler the same exact settings as I always have every single year. Yeah. I've had this boiler for 5 years. And it seems that the temperature is lower than it was last year. by about 2 degrees. So I instituted some austerity measures. I For the past few years, I haven't been heating the back rooms at all, just this one room and the bathroom. And so I instituted a couple of austerity measures in the form of insulation. So we'll see how that works out. But food prices are going up. I subsist on a diet of mostly cheese, salami, bread, garlic, and coffee, and that's pretty much all I eat. And like cheese that I usually get, that's usually either Emmenthal, which you guys over there call Swiss cheese.
Okay.
That used to cost like €2 for a 400-gram pack. Well, for the same one, I paid like $3.79 yesterday.
Wow.
That's kind of expensive. Salami that used to cost 99 cents for a 250-gram pack, that was something like €3. Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah. And euros are converted into American money are actually more than what American money is.
Usually it's more, but
About a
lately
third.
it's been about $1.15 or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
the only thing
Okay.
that hasn't gone up, surprisingly enough, is cigarettes. That's
Really?
still, yeah. I mean, I don't smoke cigarettes per se, but cigarillos, and these cost €4
Mhm.
for a pack of 20 of them.
Mhm.
And yeah, gasoline is still expensive. It's about €2 per liter, about €2 a liter, which since you have about 4 liters to the gallon, so that's about $8,
Wow.
€8 a gallon.
Yeah. They're saying that the fuel is going to go up here. And, as the fuel goes up, they pass it along to all the other costs. And, like your heating there, if they're running out of fuel, even if you're paid up, they'll cut you off anyway. Well, we just don't have anything to sell you. Sorry.
Yeah, I
What
know
do you do?
that's the way it works. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's a closed system
Yep.
with only a certain number of inputs. I mean, none of this is our fault, i.e., the people of Europe. It's the politicians' fault, because they decided to pass sanctions against Russia for what? For invading a country that we have nothing to do with whatsoever. I mean, if you were to apply that same metric to the United States, nobody would do business with the United States or Saudi Arabia, because what? Saudi Arabia is in the process of invading Yemen. They're at war with Yemen. What? The United States has invaded how many countries in just the last 10 years?
Yes. Yeah. Well, and it seems like the United States can do whatever they want and nobody will say anything.
Yeah.
But if somebody else does something the United States don't like, oh my goodness, the whole world is against them. I mean, it's one or the other. The bad part of this all is that there's going to be a day, because I feel, this is my opinion only, is that the United States is the big bully on the block.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
And there's going to come a day when the kids all look at each other and say, he's not doing so good. I think he's sick today. Let's kick him in the balls and knock him out. And then, we'll take over the block.
Yeah, I think that day is coming. Yeah. And I think the biggest threat to the United States would not be Russia, because historically Russia has never been expansionistic to the degree that the United States has, or even China. So I think the biggest threat would be China. I don't think I'd want to see a world order that's styled based on the Chinese system. I think we'd rather see a system, a world order that's based on the American system, but not under these conditions, not under the conditions that we make the rules and you do what you do as we say.
Yeah, exactly.
Because for the past 40 years, the European Union has only served as one focal point, and that's as a punching bag between the two superpowers, between the US and Russia, basically.
Yeah, Russia never really had that big of economy. They may be a huge country, but their economy is actually kind of small.
Yeah, I mean, they're the biggest country on earth.
Yes.
Second biggest country would be Canada, but since Canada only has about the number of people as you have in New York City, it's you can't really compete with Russia. Russia has about 150 million people, compared to Europe, which has 300 million people,
Yeah.
about the same as the US.
And most of those people in Canada either live on the coast or within 90
South-
miles of the border of the United States.
I know. Yeah, I've been there.
And you know, and there we sit wondering, you know, what's going to happen. I can tell you what's going to happen. Now, Russia is going to kind of sit back, and I'm hoping that they don't get enticed into a war other than with Ukraine. So far, they've been keeping their cool no matter what, because and if they do that, they're just going to starve everybody else out till people, you know, all these other countries say, throw up their hands and go, fine, we're in with the BRICS. We're going to do whatever because we can't starve our people. You have the gas, you have the oil, and nobody else has it. We're starving. We're hungry. We need fuel. We need all these things. And you're the guy we're getting it from. Let's go to town. We're your friends. And I think they mentioned something like that too. Russia said, when you guys are starving, you'll lift the sanctions and be our friends.
Of course. Yeah, of course, because as of now, the sanctions have not hurt Russia. They've, on the contrary, they've benefited Russia because now they've been able to raise rates. They've increased their business with India, with China. You know, they're doing currency swaps with these countries, bypassing the US dollar, which drives the price of the dollar down. And other things, you know, the fact that they got rid of internal competition from various international businesses, like, I don't know, McDonald's, IMF, all these places are out of Russia. So now basically they're in a better position now than they were before the invasion, before the sanctions kicked in.
Yeah, absolutely. Their value of their money, I watch, has been going up instead of down, you know, and it's like, well, that's a pretty smart move. You know, nobody's looking at that part on a financial standpoint. That's huge. It's all about the money.
Yeah, and it is all about the money. I mean, I've already made some money on the Russian ruble, except that that was back in, I think, 2010 or whatever. I opened a Russian ruble account, and I moved some money in there, and then the ruble went up, so I sold it, and it was quite a bit. It was quite substantial. I think it was like 17% or something that I made. And now I wanted to buy some rubles, and I discovered that although my ruble account, which is in Czech Republic, is still in existence, but I can't withdraw from it, and I can't add to it. It's like just blocked until the sanctions are off, which could take forever. But you know, as you said before, I don't think that the war is going to expand beyond Ukraine, because their stated objective is to get the current regime that's in power, that was put there by the US, by the way, the Zelensky regime, out of power, and get one in there that's more neutral and or pro-Russian.
And I don't blame them. In some way, the question is how long are we going to keep funding the Ukrainians, or pretending to fund them, or doing something there before, you know,
before they get pissed off at anybody who's funding Ukraine, because it also pertains to my own country, Czech Republic, which has been sending old NATO arms and munitions over to the Ukraine to help them out, but also to help out our own country, because we get rid of the old weapons so we can get new weapons, basically upgrade.
Without stockpiling and blowing them up or recycling.
Exactly.
Because I think that's a big thing. I mean, what do you do with all these weapons that are 30, 40, 50 years old? You know.
Yeah. But that's also why, you know, a lot of these end up on the black market, which is just a way of saying, you know, they sold them unofficially to criminals to do with as they please. You know, just so they could get rid of it. But I do think it will expand beyond the confines of the former Soviet Union, and I'm specifically looking at the south. I'm looking at Transnistria, which is that's a very complicated story. Basically, in the 90s, you know, when communism fell and everything, Romania broke up into two different countries, and that was Romania and Moldova. Now, Moldova has gotten international recognition from everybody, from Romania, from the EU, and all this. except that from Moldova, which is like the eastern sliver of it, there was a breakaway region called Transnistria that broke off from Moldova.
Mhm.
And not only did Moldova and Romania and the EU refuse to recognize them, nobody recognizes them. Basically, it's like a de facto country, but not a de jure country. And these people basically just want to revert back to the old Soviet system. They just want to do their own thing
Yeah.
and not have anything to do with anybody. But in my opinion, they would be a candidate for the next takeover. And if you look at the progression from where he's been going westward, if he goes past Odessa, well, then he's right up against Transnistria. So I think that would, and since Transnistria is technically EU territory, or not EU or EEC territory, I think that might expand, at least from a diplomatic perspective, it might expand what's happening in with that situation over there.
Yeah, I agree. They're going to do it through these little countries and let them do the fighting, because if Russia actually moves its troops into an EU country, but if one of those other little countries start fighting, nobody's going to care.
Yeah.
You know, so
I mean,
much.
they've already got their foothold in what's that called? It's in Poland. It's like a sliver of land that's owned by Russia. It's I can't remember it from off the top of my head. I'm sure somebody in the chat knows it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know which country are you talking about? It's
Well,
where?
it's technically Russia, but it's inside Poland.
I'm thinking, yeah, they were talking about it. It starts with a B. B something, doesn't it?
It used to be called Königsberg in the old German Empire times.
Yeah, I think they were talking. It used to be Bohemia.
No,
Wasn't that?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
It's on the coast. It's on the coast of the
it's on the
Baltic Sea.
coast. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Never mind. I'm thinking of the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. Well, whatever. But anyway, good scoop on that. At least you're doing well, and you're going to be warm, hopefully. And
for now, yeah.
For now.
I mean, if worst comes to worst, I'm going to have to live in my car or something, because I mean, for now, the power's been coming on, without any interruptions. Same with the gas, which I do think is being diluted, but that's beside the point. And the fact that they're raising rates means people are going to use less.
Yeah, or they'll be living in their car.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that because across from me on either side, you have like apartment buildings, and you're seeing like almost none of the lights are on at night, which means people are saving money by not using the lights and stuff so much.
Candles, people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, hopefully we're Kaliningrad.
Kaliningrad. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, well, good deal. Lucky Stone, you get the prize.
Kaliningrad. Yeah, that's a weird little region, and that's been historically owned by Russia since forever. But it's inside the EU technically, so it's kind of like an anomaly. It's kind of like an enclave of sorts.
Oh yeah. Well, go ahead.
They have certain agreements with the EU where they have like a railway line that runs right along the border with Ukraine and Belarusia, along the Polish border, so they can at least supply it with, so we get goods in and out of there. But it's a weird situation, and I'm sure that the border restrictions and sanctions apply to Kaliningrad as well.
Oh yeah. Lori says burning candles. Oops, there goes the house. And there might be people like that. People aren't that smart anymore to make sure stuff don't burn down. You burn their house down and the whole block burns down. Yeah.
Over here in Europe, most houses, I'd say 99% of all residential buildings are not made of wood, not like the United States. No, all the houses over here are made of stone and or concrete and or brick. Like my house, this house that I'm in right now, has 45-centimeter thick walls made of steel reinforced concrete. It was built in 1961 in the aftermath of World War II. So, and of course, it's got shutters on all the windows, which means in case of a bomb threat, you can just lower the shutters. also for security purposes. So in case of another incidence of World War II, this house ain't going down. No, because it's all made out of concrete, the floors, everything. So
Wow.
yeah,
Nice.
and that's most houses over here.
That's pretty good.
My little pet theory behind why the Americans always built wooden houses is because that a lot of the immigrants that came there in the 1800s or 1900s, they said, this place sucks. We'll only stay here for about 5 years, make enough money to go back to our country, and so we'll just build something temporary.
Yeah.
And instead, it wound up being temporarily permanent.
Yeah. A lot of that stuff temporary. And now they build houses that don't even last. They say, hey, this house is only built for 40 years. And then you try to make it last a lot longer.
Yeah. I mean, especially when you're using things like particle board. Particle board is literally the
cheapest.
It's the cheapest. Its existence only benefits the manufacturing industry itself. It doesn't benefit the consumer at all, because once that deforms or gets wet or anything, you'll never straighten it out. It weighs a ton. It only benefits
as soon as that glue gives out, it's done.
Exactly. Yeah. And while it's serving its purpose, that glue is evaporating and giving off formaldehyde, which is toxic, carcinogenic. So no, it's
we're poisoning ourselves. What crazy world we live in. Oh man. And so anyway, I want to say hi to everybody. We got a lot of people in the chat here. We got Lucky Stone, Pamela Jean, Scotty Boy, Teresa, Dianton, Desert Rose, Smoking in G Sharp. Catch us. We'll be on Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll have a show one day sometime this week, I'm sure. Regine Hutchinson, thank you for coming. Haven't seen you in a while. Nina the Mystic is finally in the house. Remember, go over to her channel. Nina, you missed my whole big intro where I told you about the costume party and how great it was. Let's see, who else did I see here that I missed? But anyway, Mary Wins is in the house. Thank you for coming. And Max Vision, who will have a show probably right after mine around 10 o'clock. So go over there and catch him. I did last week. It was a lot of fun. I did real good on my first try, second try, not so good. And then I fell asleep. But
yeah, that's easy to do. Yeah. I followed along with a couple of his remote viewings, but yeah, he's definitely got an interesting channel. I agree.
Yes, yeah. I really love doing the remote viewing. It's a lot of fun participation. He has a lot of good talks, especially on Saturday. So it's good. Catch up with him on Saturdays. He has good discussions and stuff like that. Yep. Okay. Well, anyway, let's get right into this. We are talking about culture. We talking with the end of culture. Now let's start at the beginning.
Well, I think the beginning and the end are kind of meeting up in like a circle.
Exactly.
That's kind of been my pet theory that despite what the mainstream archaeologists are saying, I've been saying all along that Europe, that culture or human civilization originated here in Europe. Well, why? Well, just look at all the creepy crawlies that you have all over the world. You have like poisonous snakes, poisonous insects, poisonous plants, all that stuff. You have none of that over here. You also have only 3 active volcanoes on the whole continent. In other words, if you go out into the woods, there's pretty much nothing that'll kill you there, because as regards bears or tigers or wolves or whatever, those are so few and far between that they don't really pose a statistical threat to humans. It's not like the wilds of Canada or whatever, where bears are a real problem. But I'm not talking about places like northern Sweden or like Svalbard, where bears are a legitimate problem. No, over here in mainland Europe, no, you have none of those problems. Why? Because human habitation has eradicated them.
Yes, well, now, but I mean, Europe has been inhabited for so long. That's why I think Europe populated. I mean, we know that all that stuff was in Europe at one point in time. And as the people got there and the climate was good and stuff like that, just like the United States. I mean, I just read something about the natives, and one Indian did something, and they said, your punishment is you have to give us 5 wolf heads. And Lucky Stone was saying, hey, there ain't no wolves around here. Well, back in the Pilgrims' days, apparently there was plenty of wolves, and he had to get 5 of them. And I'm thinking, holy cow, of course, there was also buffalo on the east side of the Mississippi, and so, but they were eradicated around 1804. The last one was killed off on the east side, and slowly the animals shrunk and shrunk and shrunk, and now we try to protect them. Like there used to be elk in Kentucky and stuff like that, and that far down. So there was all these critters all over the country, bears everywhere. Now you got a hard time seeing any of them.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we did have buffalo in Europe as well. But they were called bison.
Yes.
And bison. And they were like basically a wild cow. But yeah, it's human habitation has eradicated a lot of wildlife. And Europe it's true. It's the most densely populated continent because you have 500 million people in an area that can fit inside Australia, no problem. At least the main part of Europe, where all of Europe can also fit into one U.S. state, and that's Alaska.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is I've read parts where Europe was running out of people, were dying off, and if they wouldn't have had the Black Plague, they would overpopulate it anyway, and partly that was because of that. So
yeah, but also don't forget the fact that on that same area of land that can fit inside of Australia and or Alaska, you have 50 different countries. It depends on who you ask, and which means 27 different languages, which means that these are people that are constantly always going to be fighting, always going to have some kind of differences. And you can, now that we have the EU and the borders are no longer in place, you can drive across the Czech-German border, as I commonly do. I used to do it at least twice a week, and you can't tell a difference, except that if you get out of your car in one spot, people speak a totally different language from just a couple of feet down the road.
Yes. Well, I agree. And I agree. So now I've been listening to Manly P. Hall, and he said, and this is going to start us out, and I got the thing on the language here in a second. I got it all. You're right on track with me here. He said in the beginning of traditional backgrounds, most backgrounds are set in some kind of previous fact, built on some kind of integrity to maintain that society. Whereas, so all those cultures came from somewhere. Their traditions came from somewhere at some point in time, based on some kind of facts. And now we're going to give you this here, that we're going to look at this. Okay, this is languages around the world and what they're spoken, and as I looked at this, I'm thinking, there's more Chinese than anybody. There are a lot of Spanish speaking countries. There's English. I thought English would be up there, but like, don't go to school and learn Russian, or because it's way down at the bottom. And Lynn, I always said, oh, everybody goes to school and they learn French or something, but look at French ain't even on there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
I mean, no French. What else did they always say? They told us to take
Esperanto.
Spanish.
Esperanto used to be popular, or Italian.
Yes, Italian.
In my high school, you could take Spanish, French, or Italian. And I decided to take Spanish because that was the only 4-year program. The others were only 2-year programs. And I figure if I'm going to put the effort in, I might as well learn it right. So I went for Spanish.
And that's probably true. It's right up there, the second one. Either learn Spanish or Chinese, one of the two, because those are the languages that are, besides your English. And, there you go.
Except English, I would argue, is probably the most useful, because anybody who's worth their salt in any of these other countries, including China itself, including Russia, including Japan, or anywhere here in Europe, is going to speak English.
Yeah, that's because
including people like myself.
Yes, I think that's because of tourism. Americans have the tourist money. They go to different places. You learn English so you can communicate with the Americans who are spending their money.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I think that's it.
Also,
too.
because also don't forget that that English is the language of the United States, which at one point was the wealthiest country, and everybody was basically vying for the American dollar. In other words,
Yeah.
America now has gotten to the point where they're not exporting anything except dollars and weapons, of course, dollars, and everybody's after that dollar. So everybody has to speak English if they want dollars.
Yep, absolutely. So so I got that part out of the way, and but we're going to go back even farther than language. We're going to go back to the caveman, right to the beginnings, which is really fascinating because as I researched all of this, they were saying, 20,000 years ago, 20,000 BC is when man was doing this thing up here. He was crawling out, he started carrying his spear, and he's out being the caveman. I kind of disagree with that because, and they literally, everywhere I looked, it started out with, they were hunter-gatherers. Yeah, they were hunter-gatherers. There wasn't many people. And then they jump right to the Ice Age. But right after during and after the Ice Age, man exploded, and they started having farms and building temples. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. There's got to be more to this than just 20,000 years. Man just was an ape here, and then all of a sudden he's man over here, and then all of a sudden it says he was hunter-gatherers, and there was only about 2 million people. And I'm thinking, what?
That really doesn't make sense when you look at it from a numbers perspective, because if there were 2 million people, that means there must have been 200,000 caves. But are there 200,000 caves worldwide, or in the inhabited areas, or the old world, as you would call it, which would be Africa or Europe?
Yes.
I mean, in this area, I don't even know where there's any caves, honestly. I mean, do you know of any caves by where you live?
Not out here. Like if you go like Montana and the mountain areas, there's caves and stuff. And like if you go to like Missouri and Arkansas and stuff, there's caves down there. And I'm sure there's caves everywhere, but like here, we're in that flatland area, and not many caves.
So where did all these people live then?
Yeah, did they live in tents and teepees and whatever, like the Indians did? But I'm thinking no, because I'm thinking there was a bigger society than that. It almost sounds like they're trying to cover it up, because boom, there was this explosion of man right after the Ice Age, and they started, farming, they started making temples. They had forms of records and big thing, language. And here I'm going to share with you guys language in a second. Okay, we're going to go with language. Now, this is my next part. Language. All of a sudden, do you start saying, hey, we're talking like this. Let's write this down. And we're going to figure out these lines. And what was it? Here's, Chinese, and they're reading up and down instead of right to left like Americans do. But, that, does a caveman look like he's making all of that?
No.
That's a little more complex. Sanskrit, isn't this? Yeah, this from the Sumerians.
Cuneiform.
This cuneiform language. There was over 2,000 characters in that language. I mean, heck, most people can't even recite the ABCs, more or less. Remember, 2,000 different characters.
And that's the thing. This was a cuneiform. That was a language designed to be very simply written using a very simple tool that had two different ends. And you just, based on the way you pressed it into the clay, it made a different type of symbol. So you just be rotating it back and forth like that. And making different symbols. In other words, it was a very technologically advanced system of writing when you think about it. That's like typesetting.
Yeah, it does. It looks like some computer jib job, and I'm thinking, wow, this guy crawled out of a cave, sat down and said, okay, we're going to have a 2,000 characters and we're going to write all this stuff out. And then like I said, the Sumerians didn't just start with a little bit of writing. They started out like on top of the scale with mathematics and political stuff and money and all of these things to right away. It was like, here, we're going to be farmers. And they had major developments. They had an organized society and a complex civilization right after 3000 BC. They had agriculture. They were the first cities, which was the blueprints for all the other cities. Look at here. And then you got the Egyptians who made this kind of writing. I mean, yeah, it's pictograph kind of stuff, but look at that takes time. You just don't.
It's also that's not necessarily technological, but it's also just like the cuneiform. It's unambiguous. In other words, you write something down with a certain set of symbols. The meaning of it is unambiguous.
Yes.
It's not like drawing a picture.
No, even, exactly. And, and then there was India. India has got thousands of years of culture behind it. And so does China, and okay, earliest civilizations in South America, and I'm looking this up and I'm like, okay, they're saying, here's a city, it's 5,000 years old. Well, okay, that kind of shoots things down if there was the most complex city in civilization in the only reason I think that they go back to Egypt and Mesopotamia and all of that stuff is because it's a desert now. It's easy to find those places. You look and you go, well, there's no trees, but there's this huge building. Look at that. Wow.
Just move away all the sand and voila, you have like this new discovery. Whereas in the jungles of Central America, that's a lot more difficult because you have not only all the vegetation there, but you have insects and wild animals and disease, and scorpions. So it's a lot more complicated than archaeology in a place like Egypt. I agree.
And it says 5,000 years ago, the sacred city of Karl Soup, something like that. Yeah, is situated on, again, a dry desert terrace overlooking a green valley. And, so this is quite the thing. And I got some pictures of it. There were Australia. Here's another one. Australia, the culture of Australia. They were going on about how the Aboriginal people believe that they arrived 60,000 years ago. And they have picture art from 30,000 years ago.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
So that shoots that out of the water too. Where's that 20,000? It's way older than we've been told. Here's this Karl Soup thing, Soupe in South America. I thought this was really interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. What was that big circular thing? Some would say that it was like a water storage.
I got more pictures of this. Okay. Now you can see. Shut up! Dogs are barking. You can see that this could have been built. This is all small brick. Remember, Peru is where we looked at the Incas moving and melting those giant rocks and stuff.
Yes. Yeah. That's fascinating. Yeah. That's like a huge pyramid, but it's like a building.
Yes. And here, now that some of this stuff is probably, people made some of the roads and stuff. I don't believe a lot of it, but these buildings, they didn't. Then, here's closer up looks of it. Yeah, this is quite the place. They were trying to do something here.
Definitely.
And
there were houses on top of it. Yeah, there were platforms for houses. Definitely.
And here's a rendering. I can't read the words, but it's a good idea what it was. This must have been a courtyard of some sort. They think. That's but here we go with the monoliths out in the middle of nowhere again.
Standing stones.
But then again, what do? We put monoliths up. Look at Washington, D.C. Look at the thing in Rome.
Trafalgar Square. Yeah.
Yes, all the squares. They always have a monolith. But think of what those monoliths will look like in 20,000 years if people weren't around. They're gonna look like this. Yeah.
Mhm.
And here's that valley. I thought this was really neat. So here you got this complex, and right next to it is this beautiful valley with
Mhm.
all the farms and fields and green,
Yeah.
which kind of makes sense. Unlike some of these places where, they're building out in the desert and there's no water to be found anywhere. You could see where this could have all been watery at one time, or that could have been the valley
And
with floods, and they could have their food and support a culture there.
yeah, and it's also possible that they that before 30 however many thousands of years ago, that area that's built up was also green. I mean,
Yeah, well, if this was
why
all,
why
if
else
this
is
was,
it so like sharply delineated?
yeah,
It probably means that they had some kind of a system of irrigation to keep the whole place green instead of just that.
and if this was all, say this was a big river,
Mhm.
maybe it was the green part. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
And then the mountains would have been green if the climate would have changed.
Mhm.
We don't know what the climate was 30,000 years ago.
No, and the only thing we do know is that it's been changing ever since we've started recording it. It's been changing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, that's definitely human constructed
Yeah.
architecture.
Yes. And as you notice, unlike Machu Picchu and all them other ones, this
Yeah.
is all small stones. I
Yes.
believe people made this. But if
Hmm.
this they're literally saying, well, the same people who made this made, Machu Picchu and stuff.
Yeah.
No, I think one was made before the other. I think there was a bigger, more intelligent culture, at one point than this.
I agree.
This is the end of the culture.
Yeah, I agree that whoever built Machu Picchu and other megalithic structures had less of a problem in dealing with huge stones than whatever came later. Because anytime you have the temple at Baalbek, the temple of Jupiter, where you have like the Roman part, which is like the smallest stones, and then you have like the
Yeah.
older part, which is the bigger stones, and then you have the megalithic part, which is huge
Even
stones that are like unbelievably huge. So,
Yes. Oh yeah. Well,
uh-huh.
so then they were digging around there and they found these little dolls or statues or whatever, right? These ones depict people, in my eyes, I wonder if you agree, they depict people that would have been there. Now, do
Sure.
these simple people look like the Incas or the Mayans or whoever was there? These look like them. They don't look like they're building megalithic structures. They look like they're
No.
moving small stones. They look like the simple Indians that we
Mhm.
came and conquered at that point in time.
Sure. Yeah.
They're worshiping a deity. They're painting their faces. Nothing's really changed between then and now.
Hmm.
Okay, that sounds about right. It makes sense. This looks like a simple primitive man, an
Hmm.
Indian guy who's got a turban on his head, wearing something around his belt. He's just simple.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he doesn't look like he's gonna lift a megalithic stone.
No, no.
And this is this hillsides around that. They got these thingamabobs. I don't even know what that is, but I thought it was really cool. But this is
I think that
around,
looks like some kind of cactus.
yeah, on
Yeah.
that mountain, next to that site. So
Interesting.
it's a dry, deserty area, except for that valley.
Hmm. Hmm.
So if you look here, this is kind of the way to it. There was a lot of pictures on there, so I copied a bunch of them. But yeah, high steep mountains. This valley is what makes everything good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like this little plateau, and everything's good down there, like it was a
Hmm.
riverbed or something, very fertile.
And the mountains would have protected it from other cultures, other invaders or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. So now they're
A
telling
lot of
us,
these places that mankind flourished, I think, kind of tie in with the breakaway theory that a lot of these broke away from like an existing civilization to start their own civilization, and
yeah,
the people that did break away or escaped may not have been the best and the brightest. So
yeah.
they maybe didn't remember exactly how to do this, that, and the other thing, and just copied certain aspects of their mother culture.
Well, then again, look at these guys. Here you got the caveman guy, Neanderthal, and a regular man. You
That
know,
looks like Joe Rogan.
yes, it does, doesn't it? Oh man, and they're covered in skins and whatever, but I disagree with all of that
Yeah.
because man isn't stupid.
And besides, where did they get the iron? Where did the Neanderthal guy get the iron sword?
I
He's
think
holding
these
a
are
sword.
sticks or bone, you could say, maybe, whatever. But he's holding a bone. This is the caveman. He's
Yeah.
got a bone. Then the Neanderthal man was a little smarter, so he's got a stick with a point. And here's regular human. He's got a stick with a barbed edge. See, they're trying to show you that this guy's the smartest, and these
Yeah.
guys get dumber and dumber. But
Uh-huh.
I don't think that, because
Yeah.
why would you just get a skin, and why are you just throwing on a half of your chest? Oh, this part don't get cold, your belly don't get cold,
Yeah.
your legs don't get cold. Come on, really? This guy isn't going to say, I'm too stupid to make a stick with a point. Humans are
Yeah,
humans,
exactly. And plus, if he's so overdressed up top, how come he can't use the same technology to make himself some pants?
That's right. That's exactly.
He can make himself like a tunic like that. Then why not the pants? His legs don't get cold.
The logical, they're just trying to group it up. So, this guy's stupid, this guy's a little smarter, and this guy's really, really smart. Look, he's even wearing jewelry, around his neck, because he can figure that out. Look, he's got strings to tie his stuff together. And these other idiots, they can't figure anything out. They just cut something and throw it over their shoulder.
You see, what always gets me is the fact that Neanderthals had a different bone structure. They had bones that were not shaped the way ours are. They had basically round bones that were, compared to our bones, were almost unbreakable. Now, why would you evolve into something that's more frail and less able to survive than something like a Neanderthal, who had not only a better body, a better bone structure, but they also had bigger brains than we do.
Yes.
They had bigger.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. So
I mean, you're going to be tougher than, unless they had a hard time multiplying or something else genetically was wrong with them. I would see that they would be a competitive species. Yes, they said they couldn't run as fast or something because they had the longer arms, but it's like a monkey. You can't break a monkey's arm, but he'll snap yours like a twig.
Even a chimpanzee literally has six times the strength of Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
6 times. And that's a chimpanzee that's half the stature of a human. So, where did we lose all that strength? Like I always tell people, if you had the strength of a rabbit, of just a rabbit, you could jump on top of your building on the roof, then jump down, and then using just your bare hands, dig a tunnel underneath your entire house, and then repeat the process again.
Yep.
Because that's what a rabbit can do.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And what do we got? We got nothing. Our bones are weak. Our body is weak. The only thing, and maybe our brains are a little bit better. I don't know, but something happened there.
Definitely. If anything, it looks like we were intentionally degraded by like what they call the Anunnaki, which said, okay, these people are smart, and we're gonna, and just like the old legends that say we need a race of slaves to serve us, so we're gonna create this race. And they made one that was too intelligent. That was the Neanderthals. Those would have served as competition for the Anunnaki. So they said, no, we're gonna make something that's stupider.
Yeah.
And they made us.
Yes, exactly. Let's see. So we got the caveman. I don't believe any of this stuff. Yeah, sure, there might have been some out there, but you know what? I don't think that these guys were walking around with a club in their hand, just surviving off of crap,
And besides, if you had the same mindset as today, I'm sure they would have come up with, instead of gun control, I'm sure they had club control. Where they had laws of who could carry a club in public and who can't.
Yes. And like you said before, they all couldn't live in caves because
there's not that many caves.
There's not that many caves. They had to have a place to stay. They probably built houses outside somewhere, and Okay, so here we got the Aryan race. I figured we go to Aryan race because this was the European race, namely given to people who were said to speak the Indo-European language, thought to have settled the prehistoric times in ancient Iran and northern Indian subcontinent. The Aryan race appeared in the mid-19th century and remained prevalent in the mid-20th century, according to hypothesis. This is all hypothesis. Probably light-skinned Aryans were the group who invaded and conquered ancient India from the north, whose literature and religion and modes of social organization subsequently shaped the course of Indian culture, particularly Vedic religion that informed and was eventually superseded by Hinduism. People think the Aryans and they think of Europe. They don't, most of the time you don't think of India.
Actually, the only Aryans that live in Europe are the people that are known as gypsies.
Yeah.
Some people call them the Sinti. Some people call them the Roma. They go by various names, but they're like a distinct subcategory, and they live in every European country, usually as pretty much outcasts.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Then we got the oldest, which are the Bushmen of South Africa. They say there are about 100,000 Bushmen in Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, and Angola, indigenous people of South America, and lived there for tens of thousands of years. Okay, so I read about these people, and they basically were nomads, living in the bush, etc., etc. But guess what happened? They're living in this area. They made it into a reserve. They got the diamonds. They discovered diamonds there. They gathered up this is kind of sad because they gathered up the Bushmen and they hauled them all off. The Bushmen don't hunt anymore. And if they do, those who have not returned to the reserve now live in resettled camps outside the reserve, rarely able to hunt, and arrested and beaten when they do. They are dependent on government handouts. Many are now gripping by alcoholism, depression, and illness. And I'm thinking, so you took these native Bushmen who lived on that land for thousands of years, hunted with a spear and a bow. You've seen those, shows where they're out there hunting a gazelle and living off of nothing, eating dirt pretty much.
And exactly. I mean, aside from the fact that it's totally immoral to like force these people out to get a resource, quote unquote, like diamonds, which really serves no purpose except vanity.
Yeah, exactly. But there's money in it. So look at in the 80s, so when they say blood diamonds, the Muslim men that were living there, they had no leave because of the diamond finds. Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. This is more about the Bushmen. These people were, been living there for thousands of years, and they didn't bother anybody really. They were almost wiped out. Their groups were totaling between 25 and 60 people in a little group. Their bands, husband, wife, children. That's who they were. They weren't fighting anybody. But no more Bushmen.
Yeah.
I thought, wow. Okay, then we got the oldest languages. And then it's possible languages are according there as estimated total languages around the world are 6,809. That's the ones we know about. How many languages were lost? I mean, think about all the Indian languages in the United States that were lost and are still losing because the people, they're just not speaking them anymore, or their whole tribe was wiped out. You know,
150 to 150 languages that are spoken by more than 1 million people. Well, yeah, just like my language, which would be Czech, spoken by 10 million people.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, exactly. And look at that. 10 of those languages. Well, we went through the Armenian language. Armenian language is also part of the Indo-European linguistic. Armenian. Oh, go figure. The Armenian language originated in 450 BC at present. About 5% of people speak this. Wow. So, I mean, yeah, Armenia, great, blah, blah, blah. But, it's just, you wouldn't think Armenia of all places.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's definitely one of the, if you follow heartland theory, that's definitely an important area of the world, because
Yeah.
that's like that's got the perfect climate, the perfect soil, the perfect weather conditions, the perfect everything, you know. And they also have excellent wine, excellent cheese, I should point out. And very few people know about it.
Yeah.
Very few people, and it's located in the former territory of the USSR, the southern portion.
Yeah. How about that? That's about all I got there. But anyway, oh, we got Gaza Cabs in the house. Thank you for coming. That's Lee, Seeker of Truth 2. Let's see. And Courtney from Stars of the Morning Light. But anyway, here, so as it goes on, I'll go with the rest of my stuff. So we got the East, or why was East first? I did that because of the Fertile Crescent, and then that led to population. And then
exactly,
this,
from the Fertile Crescent, it's only a hop, skip, and a jump to hit Armenia.
yes, then exactly. And well, I already said because it was in the it's in the desert now. It's easy to find. What about Australia? They find a lot of that stuff because a lot of that's desert out there. You know, they got caves. They find the art in the cave and out in the desert. Nobody's touched it. Nobody goes there. South America, you know, you got they're finding stuff out there because it's in the jungle now. China, the great believe it or not, China wasn't even called China or Chinese. It was called the Great Qing. Q, huh?
Qing.
Yeah.
Qing, yeah.
Yeah.
I've
So
heard that before.
Used to be the Great Qing. Yeah. So I'm like, wow, you know, and that was only, it says in 221 BC. Now, somehow or another, I can't believe that these cultures developed. This is what baffles me. How did these cultures develop on their own, especially when you have like people like the Chinese? You know, you can tell a Chinese person and they have their own language, their own culture.
Yeah.
But that differs from the Europeans. You can't turn a European into a Chinese person.
No.
You know,
You can't, most of all, you can't turn a European mind into a Chinese mind, because it's just like, even with their writing system is based on a totally different system of logic, where they use basically like stylized pictograms to communicate meaning instead of symbols for sounds that comprise words. So in other words, we have a different system of logic that dictates a different system of writing, where we have standardized sounds that we can write down, whereas they have standardized concepts that they can write down. And it doesn't, which also explains the linguistic differences among the Oriental languages and the linguistic differences among the European languages, where we use a common set of sounds that's basically roughly based on the ASCII alphabet, but they have different sets of sounds that they use commonly in their language that we don't normally use. So it also ties in with the fact that of all the different writing systems historically, there have been two that were dominant: left to right and up to down. There's never been a writing system that went from down to up. Well, logically, because when you're writing, you don't want to cover up the text you just wrote, because you want to maintain continuity of thought. So if you're right-handed and you're using your right hand to write, it's logical to write from left to right, so that you can see what you're writing.
Yes.
But if you're left-handed, it's more logical to write from right to left, which ties in kind of with my theory that there must have been more left-handed people living in the Middle East, which is why they developed languages like Arabic and Hebrew that are written from right to left as opposed to left to right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
absolutely. You know, Desert Road, or no, Pamela Jean says, in the future we'll all probably be talking telepathically. That is a really good question. I think this is my thought, is there was a super intelligent society before that 50 or 60,000 years ago. At some point, there was a cataclysm that destroyed it all. And then, you know, it takes time to get back in, especially if you have these societies that were scattered all over the earth. Because think about it, if you had 10 Chinese guys left and they're in China or whatever, how long would it take them to build a society and populate themselves to the point where, you know, you can have a culture again?
God knows. I mean, that
Yeah.
depends on the starting point, I guess.
Yeah.
But that calls into mind a different question. Even if the starting point was high, like let's say you had a breakaway from our current civilization. Okay, well, I know how to use a computer, but do I know how to build one? So if me and 10 other people like me were stuck on a desert island, would we be able to like develop a civilization on that island? Not really. We'd probably devolve really quickly into like a Gilligan's Island situation instead of building it up to, you know, Göbekli Tepe or something.
Well, and here's the thing is it takes, you know, hundreds of years to develop to that point where you have a civilization that can take, hey, you know, I got 50 guys here, they're going to work on our temple. And I got another 50 guys that are going to go farming. And I got another 50 guys that are going to build houses over here. And I got women and children, and they're going to cook and clean, and they're going to do the grain and all, make clothes and blah, blah, blah. And then I go, oh, wait a minute. We got critters out there and other civilizations out there that might come and attack us. So we got to have an army of at least 100 guys to protect them all.
Division of labor. Yeah.
Yeah. And in the meantime, we got, like it said here, you know, all of a sudden out of nowhere popped up the political stuff, the languages, the mathematics, and the law and order. And, you know, so then you got those people who aren't doing anything. You know, politicians don't do anything, walk around, the king's walking around like this, and he's got 50, 100, 200,000 servants, you know, whatever he needs.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I think that commenter was right. I think that in the future, if we do evolve, we'll get to the point of telepathy. Granted, yes. But I think that's probably where we came from. That whoever created us probably had telepathy, because I think telepathy is biologically based, because we know now, based on research of people like Rupert Sheldrake and others, that consciousness is a non-local thing. It's not localized within your brain. Consciousness can shift around, it can move around, shift time and space, and it's also partially based on our biology, which means we do have something like a collective mind. That's how telepathy works. So
but
if we do get,
but it's like the language, you know, when you're a kid, they always say kids have special powers. They have that telepathy. They can do those things. They can see the ghosts. They can, you know, do different things. But what happens with the kids? Well, they don't have anybody to talk to. They don't have anybody to teach them how to ride the bicycle. So if you don't have, you're not being taught to ride the bicycle, what's going to happen? You don't know how to ride. And when you get old, you can't start riding that bicycle at 50.
No. But it's interesting that, you know, some things the kids have to be taught, but some things they unlearn by themselves, like swimming. Every child born knows how to swim. Yeah. It's only later do they automatically forget, unless they're taught to swim. Or exposed to the medium of water where they can, you know, figure it out on their own. Yeah,
exactly. And that's the thing. So anyway, as I was listening to Mandy P. Hall, he says, today we are disregarding the traditional ways. And I'm thinking, okay, let's go back. So if you're just, let's go back to your thought of being on the deserted island. And what is going to be your number one thing is survival, not building that computer. Like you said, you're going to degrade yourself. You're going to say, you and you are going to hunt. And then we're going to protect the place here. And 3 more of us are going to build a house, and we're going to start society. And then our children are going to know how to hunt and build a house and protect the place. And in the meantime, now here is in the meantime, the population of wild critters outside, if we destroyed the world, is going to start to multiply, you know, because we're not hunting them off. And now there's going to be more bears and tigers and, you know, wolves and stuff. And now we got to protect ourselves even more, because I don't have any bullets. I went to the store, but the store is gone. And can you make a bullet?
Yeah.
No, but I can make a spear. I can throw a spear. I can make a bow. That's pretty simple, right?
Well, yeah, but in that hypothetical situation of a desert island, it's really quickly we're going to use the same memes, and we're going to use the same culture that we came from and try to reestablish that in that new place. And it's going to be like a hybrid of like a survival situation plus the civilization. So it's going to be just like Gilligan's Island,
Yeah.
where you have the same irrational structure where, everybody does their part, sort of, except the Howells that just sit around doing nothing because they have all this money, even though like money in a context like that is pretty much
useless. Yeah.
Yes and no, because they still use their money to like get things done for them for their own selfish purposes.
Yeah, only because the other people know that someday we'll get rescued.
And that money is going to be worth something.
Yes. So these people would be disregarding their traditional ways, and society will be losing society. We're kind of throwing our traditional ways away now. I mean, like you said, the borders are all mishmash. What's gonna happen now that the borders in Europe go like this in about 50 years? Are they, they're going to speak a mix of languages? You're going to grow up over on this side of the border, but you can go over there. So you're going to learn 2 or 3 languages, which you already do. And eventually they're going to kind of settle on one, or are they going to just be like, well, the border kind of sloshed around, and now more of these people, like the German people, are moving across the border because of the laws and the regulation, or there's no food. So I moved over to Czechoslovakia, right?
Yeah.
Now now Czech is speaking German.
Yeah. I mean, based on the geographical configuration and social configuration of Europe itself, it's always been a multicultural place, because even in terms of languages, when you go to school here in Europe, you have to learn 2 foreign languages besides your own. A dominant foreign language, and a secondary foreign language. For most people, that's English and German, or English and French, or English and Japanese. One of them always has to be English, because the whole reasoning behind it, behind the European Union, was to one day merge with the United States. That's why the flag is the same as the United States flag.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, if you remember, the original US flag was 13 stars, white stars on a blue background, where the EU flag, or the Star Spangled Asshole, as I call it, is 12 stars on a blue background. Same flag, basically. Just that the American flag included the flag of Venice, which was a trading country. In other words, the plan was from the start to make a wealthy trading nation. So it's not going to, they didn't foresee themselves as being like producers, but as interlocutors or mediators of commerce, so to speak.
Okay, here's that one I was telling you about before. He says, the greater the population, the more we must give up our ambitions. And now, here's the difference. Do you know what? And this one was very particular, because everybody's always told me, ambition, be ambitious. You need to have ambitions. But do you? What is your definition of an ambition?
Yeah, that's right. That's ambition includes things like aggression. It includes things like greed, things like, appropriation. It goes so far as things like theft,
yes,
usurpation, subjugation.
Your ambitions is the accumulation of stuff. Like, I agreed. I want a new boat. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to have a great job. I'm going to blah, blah, blah. I'm going to have that house and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to have more and more and more, right?
Yeah.
And we're always told to be ambitious. You got to have ambitions, son. Get, ambitions. And what should we be striving for?
I think we should be striving for slack. As stupid as that sounds. In other words, to generate just the right amount of income we need, using the least amount of effort.
Yeah, well, and that it's called aspiration is the word you're looking for. And that is become more than you are, and we're not taught aspiration. We're, becoming more. I want to go to school and learn more. I want to become a doctor. not for my ambition, but so I can be a doctor, or I can be a nurse, or I can be an engineer, because I want to become more of myself. I want to enlighten myself. I'm going to learn the spiritual realm. I'm going to become more inside. But, you know, everybody tells you to be ambitious. And so you need to, like you said, you need to balance that. You need to have aspiration and have a little ambition. But instead, they've told us they have a lot of ambition and very little aspiration. Don't think, just do.
Just do. And that's the American mindset. The American mindset is always, okay, if I've got a good thing going, I want to multiply that. I want more of that. In other words, if I have one successful restaurant, okay, that's not good enough. I'm going to set up a second one and a third one. And pretty soon I have a chain of restaurants. You know, that's the American expansionistic thinking, whereas the European mind is different, where usually I've noticed this in a lot of my friends, they have a figure in their head, and as soon as they attain that figure, they're happy, and they'll even go so far as to just sell their business and just retire. You know, that's how a lot of people I know are, except that, you know, that's kind of selfish. And I kind of realized that when I moved here for the third time in 2004, I set myself up to be able to live off interest. And I was doing that for 4 years, except that during that time, a friend of mine spoke to me and he's like, you know, that's kind of selfish. You know, you're not doing any work. You're not giving anything back to society. And he convinced me to become a teacher, which I did. So, yeah, I taught high school and college. And because he's like, you have a brilliant mind and you should be sharing this with the world. You know, because back then, you know, YouTube wasn't really a thing. So, you know, it depends on what kind of values you have. If you value this in others, you should cultivate it in yourself. If you want other people to give of themselves freely, you know, by sharing their expertise, their knowledge and stuff like that on YouTube, and you enjoy that kind of content, maybe you should start producing that type of material yourself and living that kind of a life. Yeah,
that's the aspiration instead of the you know, ambition. The ambition is the guy who goes out there, you know, and you know, buys all that crap and works really hard to get it. And you know, giving of yourself would be like being that teacher. You know, that's the aspiration part of which I think is great. You know, and so
it's also a way for somebody like myself. I've never been in a relationship. I don't have any kids. You know, so by becoming a teacher, that's almost like having surrogate kids, you know, like virtual kids, so to speak.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree with that. And it's a good thing. And I think that's where culture has gone wrong in a way. And Manly P. Hall was saying this in all his reading things that he was saying. He said, man is the cause of his own trouble.
Sure.
He's change his own approach to his own he needs to change his approach to his own existence. You know, because what do? We appoint people, and we elect people. You're going to do that job, and I'm going to sit back. Just like religion, I hate to say, is all about the same thing. They, you know,
somebody's going to save me. If I believe in this Christ God thing, he's going to save me.
Yeah,
I don't have to save me.
Yeah, I don't have to do anything. All I got to do is, you know, I believe in him. I'm in, you know.
And just by believing in him and paying my tithes and all that stuff.
Yeah, I pay a few tithes, big deal. And, you know, when the pearly gates come, he's going to say, ooh, you get the golden ticket. Really? Because
if it was,
what?
Are people stupid enough to really believe this? That it's that simple?
Apparently they are, because it's been going on for a long time. Like I said, he's talking from the beginning of time, the beginning of culture. Somebody said, I don't want to do the work. I'm going to elect that guy over there. He's going to build all the houses, and we're going to watch him. I'm going to be the Howells.
Like the Howells, exactly. Yeah. Except that most people in the Western world, they fail to realize that Christianity was a product not of Israel or the Jews. It had really nothing to do with the Jews. It was created by the Roman Empire to control their most rebellious province, which was Judea.
Yeah.
And it worked. And when they saw that it kind of worked, they decided to implement it worldwide. I mean, not worldwide, but in their own empire, throughout
Yep.
their whole empire, and they mandated and made it like the state religion. And that's also how the Roman Empire survived to this very day in the form of the Vatican and the Catholic Church and all the huge amounts of money that they have.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It's and all this stuff gets integrated into the, back to the culture thing. It gets integrated into that culture, their beliefs, their customs, and then there's always that breakdown in society where, people get wiped out. They're in their little group again, and they develop that language. They develop their customs. Remember, the customs are built on previous facts that somebody can't remember from way back when. And I don't know why we do this. Like right now, if you ask somebody, why do we have a Christmas tree? I don't know. Why do we have this little manger we put the little baby thing in? I don't know, because it's selling in the store. That's what we do at Christmas.
I mean, some of these customs are just ridiculous. All I have to do is look at my own customs. In Czech culture, the way we celebrate Easter, for example, is all the guys, they make like these whips out of saplings, and they're like a ceremonial phallic shaped thing. And it's tied at the end with a ribbon made of 3 strands, and they go around the village and they whip all the women, all the females get whipped, and in return for the whipping, the woman is supposed to give them painted eggs and vodka and vodka. Yeah, can't forget the vodka.
Can't forget the vodka. That's a pretty good one. That's a pretty good.
So how do you explain that? I mean, that's kind of an irrational thing. I mean, you talk about this to Western enlightened people, and they're like, oh well, that's misogynistic and all that, but that's just
their tradition,
our custom. Yeah,
their
that's my
customs and tradition, and you don't know where it came from, but it was probably built off of some fact or previous knowledge of something a long time ago, and nobody everybody's looking around going, I don't know, we just do it. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And if your great ancestors would come back, they'd be like, what the hell are you guys doing? This isn't what well, we had this, and know that it probably is all kind of messed up, it's
probably distorted from its original purpose, because one of our Christmas traditions is also we have the Christmas tree. In other words, you cut down a tree outside, bring it inside.
Yeah,
for whatever purpose. Yes, it does make the house smell nice and everything, except that the traditional Christmas lights were candles. And like, you can imagine the irrationality of combining candles with a rapidly burning coniferous tree. You got to be really careful when you're using traditional candle holders on a traditional Christmas tree. But not only that, but it was also a traditional meal of fish that evening. Yeah, and before that, you couldn't eat the whole day. In other words, if you're even slightly pre-diabetic, you're running into difficulties, and the virtuous thing would be to get to the point where you've been not only not eating for the whole day, but also working to clean the house. That's also another part of the tradition, where you get to see the so-called golden piglet, which is like a flash of yellow from the edge of your eye. That's the golden piglet, and that's like a good thing. But
it's because you're fasting all day and you're all wore out, and you're seeing visions already,
Yes, your sugar levels are plummeting. Yeah.
And people they were like, I seen it, let's eat now. I get it, I totally get it. But see, this is the thing, and it's all made up. It's like, oh, it happens, but see, and here's the thing, why does this all happen? Because people are worried. You're worried. They want to take away the worries. It's the grand effects of worry on society infects every single person. And as the societies are shaped like that, they create a complexing and difficulty. And each society solves that problem because man uses his brain to try to change things. He always comes up with a solution for the cause to solve his worry, but he always creates something new problem, and then he has to solve that problem, developing a culture of chaos or weirdness or whipping things. Give me an egg and a vodka.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know,
I agree, but see that's the thing. The culture, it's a thing that's done regularly. In other words, it's an element of stability that the members of the culture can gather around and say, okay, yeah, this is what we do every year, and it kind of unifies the culture because everybody does the same thing every year at the same time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know. And then that's the thing is, did they, and you kind of wonder what that is, what, it says he was talking about solve a lot of these things. It's because of the mistrust, the fear solves nothing and makes us sick because you fear like, some kind of thing. So you develop this tradition and you kind of solve that problem, or you elect a guy, or you well, we ain't gonna do that no more, kind of thing. Like how many phobias do people have? I got to throw some salt over my shoulder kind of thing. But that's the culture of that, but if you went to the Indians, the North American Indians, and you're throwing salt over your shoulder, it'd be like, what the hell you doing?
Exactly.
You don't know.
Because that's what passes for religion these days is more like just superstition. It's not a true philosophy that a lot of people can actually delineate how to live their lives. It's not necessary. It's something like because most Christians will say, well, it means reading the Bible, it means going to church. But how many of these people actually have a Bible in their own home? I recently spoke to a Christian lady. I'm like, yes, I've read the Bible twice. Well, I have. And how many times have you read the Bible? She's like, well, none. Do you have a Bible? And she's like, well, we used to have a Bible. Yeah. In other words, she's like the world's biggest Christian, but doesn't even have a Bible in the home.
Yeah. See, that's what I just don't get is like, yeah, I'm a big Bible thumper, but I've never really read the Bible. I just go to church, and the priest guy, he's up there and he tells me what to do, and I know all about it. I'm good for the week, and I gave my $10, and woo, I'm all full of it. And I can't remember. See, this is the part where I can't remember what he said. So we're going to do this because I think that's what he said, or this is what he meant. See, this is the control of the people, because the guy reads out of the book. I'm going to read out of this book and tell you guys what to do. Now, if you don't have a Bible in your house, how are you going to know he's wrong?
Exactly. And for the longest time, the Catholic Church didn't want people to have a Bible in their home. They were against having it translated into what they called the Vulgate, which meant any language that was other than Latin. Because back then, like I mentioned before, the sophisticated people of Europe all speak English. Well, back then, the sophisticated people of Europe all spoke Latin, because that was the international language, because Rome was the dominant power that everybody was trading with, and so on and so forth. So they were also the dictators of the culture through the religion.
What does a guy, this was a joke the other day, and I thought it was funny. What does a guy that can't read and a guy that doesn't read have in common?
Not much, I guess.
No, I have a lot in common. One doesn't read and one doesn't want to read. One can't read. They're both in the same category.
That's right. They're both not reading. Yeah.
Yeah, they're both not reading. They're out of it. I mean, so you learn how to read and you don't use that superpower. You're just as dumb as the guy who can't read.
I agree. And most people that I used to know back in the US, they were you can even tell if you go to a lot of garage sales, yard sales like I used to, and you go into people's homes and you see how many books they have, and then you compare it to how many books I always had in the home. I mean, my parents were bibliophiles, so am I. I mean, I just in this one house alone, I have over 50,000 books.
Wow.
Okay. It was like two sea containers, two shipping containers when I moved here. 40-foot shipping containers of mostly books.
Yeah, awesome.
And I'm still keeping them because you never know what could happen. What if the internet goes down? What if the power goes out? Somebody sooner or later, those books are going to be quite valuable.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably valuable now.
I know this because I was running a used bookstore, among other reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, That could be in the future. Those are, well, right now they're kind of antique-y.
I know, I know.
You
But
know,
see, a lot of people even back then were mostly, well, if you look at the books that they would have in the home, they were mostly cookbooks
yeah.
or Reader's Digest condensed books, which I
Yeah.
like despise. Even on eBay, you can get them for like five for a dollar or whatever.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
they're not real books.
Yeah, they're, just a short story in a magazine kind of cover.
Exactly. And see, a lot of these people were actually getting their culture from TV, which is mass mandated media, which even back then was much more controlled than publishing. Because even back then, anybody could publish anything. All you had to do was to write up some text and distribute it on a mimeograph machine or a rexograph machine, and voila, you could be a publisher, even
Yeah.
on a shoestring budget.
Yeah.
But could you do the same thing with a TV station back in, like, let's say the 70s? No. In other words, that was controlled by the top money powers that had the means and the capital to open up those kind of facilities, and they were the ones who made the decision as to what content went out.
I think when they opened up radio and TV, they had a plan with that, knowing when they started out, we're going to be able to control masses of media to people, like television and stuff like that. We don't want every Tom, Dick, and Harry getting on and having their own radio and broadcasting to the world. And we don't want our TV either, so we're going to control this part. Like you said, it's hard to control somebody writing down a piece of paper, and you could do that. It's like right now, people got blogs. They got internet stuff. They got all these.
Yeah, I have a blog. Yeah.
Yeah, and these places now are like Twitter and all them things, Facebook especially. They're starting to control people's thoughts on there now. They're like, hey, wait a minute, we were let free for a while, and nah.
Yeah, that's why I'm on a free speech platform called Minds, and not a non-free speech platform like Facebook or Twitter or any of that. No, I don't go for that.
Yes. So one last thing before we're going to close out the night, because we're getting an hour and a half here. History, all this history is collective memory. And that's all of us putting our heads together. Now, let me finish here. Biography is individual memory, and an autobiography is the individual. In life, he is individually living and writing his memories. Memories. Okay, so if you take that and blow that up in a big bubble, you got the collective. That's all of us remembering things.
Sure.
But we can't all get together and put it together because they keep us pretty separate. So you got the autobiography, which is the government and the people that control us, putting our collective thoughts together and writing the history.
Yeah, it's like an autobiography of the U.S. government or the Czech government or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But see,
so
it's also that also ties in with the pop culture thing I came across yesterday, where Kanye West, he was saying that, well, if there's one thing that kids these days shouldn't be forced to learn, would be history. That's one of the things you just get rid of. Now, isn't that interesting that he would get rid of that? So, all right, so it's bad enough that the educational system that teaches the kids nothing to begin with, nothing of substance. What would he replace that with? I'm sorry, like what, sports? I mean, that ties in with the whole media thing, because a disproportionate amount of media coverage is for sports. And what's that designed for? That's designed to foster competitiveness among people. It's a proxy for war, and it's also infantilization on one hand, because these are children's games, something with a ball or whatever. It's designed to give people the illusion of freedom. It's just like the reason for all the what I call standard deviations, all the people with all the ridiculous tattoos and green hair or whatever. That's to give the illusion of individuality, the illusion of freedom, where it doesn't matter what you look like, but what they really care about is what you're thinking. They don't want you to think something different.
Yeah. They're just creating chaos. And as you get those people out there thinking something different, then the people that are, most people would conform to society And
Yeah, I've never been that person. I've always been the opposite. I was okay. They're dumbing us down. I want to learn more, and
yeah,
that's what I'm doing. Like what 24/7 is just documentaries, just learning more and more new things all the time.
all the time. Yeah, all day long. That's all I'm doing is I can't watch TV or nothing,
Same here.
or YouTube. I listen to a lot of the podcasts. I can't sit there and watch, but I enjoy the people that put the stuff out, and I
Mhm.
listen to that stuff like the Manly P. Hall stuff, podcasts, things
Oh
like
yeah.
that, all the time, all day long. It's playing,
Mhm.
and then when I get home, I got books, and then I grab my books and I read stuff out of there, and then I put that together, and then I take notes. As you can see, I carry this little book around, and I write notes in here, and I write I got a whole mess of wise sayings that I come up with,
I
uh,
write down stuff all the time too. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I don't want
Mhm.
to forget it. And I think, oh, this sounds really important for me. Or,
Mhm.
I remember it better once I write it down versus just reading through it or hearing it. And then it's like, where did that go? It's gone.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I
but
agree. Yeah.
but then there's the knowledge is in my head. And when it comes back to me, hopefully at the right time, that's when I need it versus not having it at all to refer back to. I don't
Mhm.
want somebody to come up and, I listen to some of these stupid YouTube things where the guy goes up there and says, if you were born 10 years ago, how old would you be?
What time is it?
Well, if you were born 10 years ago, how old would you be?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
10 years. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Exactly. People are like, 12?
No,
Like,
it's
you
I
idiot.
make well. Notice that I said the joke like, well, what time is it? So you show somebody a clock and say,
Yeah.
okay, what time is it? And people are stupid enough to not
Yeah.
know the answer.
Yeah. Well, like the one girl, he stops and he asks and he says, okay, if you're facing north and you turn right, which direction are you facing? She's like, I don't know. And she's looking at him like she didn't know. Then he says, well, you got a compass and you're facing north. Now you turn
Mhm.
right. Where are you going to be? What's a compass? And I'm thinking,
Oh, it's bad. It's bad.
people are dumb as crap. And I'm
Yeah,
just, then they
it's.
ask, how many stars are on the flag? Or like, what country is Mount Rushmore in? And
Oh my
they're
God.
like, Canada. It's like,
Oh my God.
what? You people are, where they, all of these can't be, just
I
actors.
know, yeah, but a lot of it is true. A lot of it is for real. I'm saying, yeah, that
Yeah,
in other words, people really are this stupid, and I've come
yeah,
across this even in some of my own circles, but not as drastic as that.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And that's the thing. It makes me really sad and worried for the world, because when you have somebody who doesn't study and doesn't read, and they just absorb what you tell them. So I
mhm.
go up to somebody who doesn't know anything and I say, okay, when you face north and you turn right, you're facing south. And they're like, okay. Now you say, we're going to make everybody turn south. The south is good because you turn right.
Uh-huh.
Well, you're going to be so messed up. You're going to be like, I go south. It says
Mhm.
south. It says turn south. Okay. This is north. This must be south. I'm going to turn right here. Well, now you can't even follow directions because you listen to a guy, and I think that's like right now you listen to the news or the politicians, and
Mhm.
one guy is telling you, oh, what I heard the funniest thing the other day, like, and I hope I don't offend anybody, but I will, because the lady, she's a politician, she was up there saying, it's all fake. A fetus does not have a heartbeat. There's no such thing.
No.
And I'm like, at some point the baby comes out and that's a fetus and it has a heartbeat.
Sure.
At
Yeah.
some point there is going to be a heartbeat there. you know, and she's like, nope, there's no such thing. It's all a lie. I'm thinking, you know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. Sure, you know, there it might not have we haven't proved if it has a soul or not, or something at that point in time, but you can biologically see it's like a fact, like, you know, the ocean has water in it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Don't
See, a lot of
know.
these people just want to avoid personal responsibility for their actions. They just want to have sex ad infinitum for their own pleasure and not have to face the consequences.
Yeah.
That's the reality. And they're justifying this mentally by saying, oh, that a fetus is not really a living, breathing human being.
Yeah.
You know, what about all the people that can't have kids? What about people like me who were never able to because they never got into that proper situation? Because like I said, I've never been married, never lived with anybody, never had any kids. So you know, I may come to a point where I might appreciate having had kids in the past, but I'll never get to that point because I'm too old. I'm over 50. So
yeah. Yeah, well, and then that's the thing, you know, not everybody ends up having kids, but it's not the thing that you have to go and have kids. It's just the point
but there's people that should have kids that are not having kids.
Yes.
It's just like in the movie Idiocracy, but it's the people that shouldn't be having kids that are having the kids.
Yes,
like in the other apartment building that I rented, I had a family that had 6 kids. Okay, you know, that's quite a few kids.
Yes,
you know?
Yes, exactly. That's
and they're all on welfare. They're the whole family on welfare from the German government, and these are the people that are having the kids.
Yeah, and I would say that most of these people that are, I from my experience, most of the people that are on welfare continue that cycle. You know, once in a while you get one of them that breaks out and goes to college or something and really smart, but most of them, hey, mom and dad, they don't go to work. Why should I? Mom and dad are going to tell me how to get on welfare. Mom and dad had a bunch of kids, and mom and dad said, you know, you meet a girl, you do this thing, and then you have a kid, and you'll be just like us, son. Okay,
yeah,
that's what I guess I do. You know,
it's show and tell. It's a monkey see, monkey do. They're just imitating what their parents did, and you know, that's what they expect their own lives to be like.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that happens to everybody. I'm just saying that on a more likely scale that happens. There are breakout ones. It's mom and dad were on welfare, you know, but I went to college and I became a doctor, or I did that.
Sure, but
and there's nothing wrong with that. But
I would contend that we need all of these different people. We need even the welfare recipients, whatever. We need those people too. You know, I would never advocate for saying that you know, well, we don't need these people. No, we need everybody.
Yes.
And I don't agree with the fact that we're overpopulated. That's bullshit. Because even if you gave every single person a 100 meters, 1,000 meter square plot of land, I think it was like, 100 square meters, you could fit the population of the earth inside of Texas or Ukraine.
Yeah.
So, and plus, if you stack them in high rises, you have more agricultural land that you can use, and so on and so forth. So, you know, the amount of population that we have is still at sustainable levels. It is not unsustainable. It's only the fact that it looks that way in certain areas because the big cities have gotten even bigger.
Yeah. And people have gotten lazier.
And people have gotten lazier.
And
people are moving out of these tiny little villages where you have villages here in Germany that are like basically abandoned, that, you know, people keep these houses as, you know, it's been in the family kind of thing. And plus it's a store of value. So you have villages that are basically abandoned, nothing going on there. And you go to a big city like Nuremberg or Frankfurt, and it's like, it looks like overpopulated, but it's an illusion. When you drive between Nuremberg and Frankfurt, you're driving on a highway and you look to the left, you look to the right, and what do you see? You see nothing. You go from my city to Prague, and same thing. You look to the left, you look to the right. Occasionally you see a house here, a house there, a road sign or whatever, but for the most part it's empty space. It's kind of like the atom.
Yeah.
it's mostly empty space.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, like out here in North Dakota, it's the kind of the same way. You
Mhm.
go in certain places where there's, industry, like here, we got the oil. So it's pretty populated.
Mhm.
But if I drive a few hours that way or a few hours this way, there's nothing. Why?
Yeah.
Because, and there's some houses out there and things and people living. But the thing is if you live there, what are you doing for a job to make the money to pay the bills?
Yeah.
And then what are you driving 2 hours? I mean, towns out here are 50 miles apart. You got to drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're in a
See, you don't have
town,
that situation here in Europe. You don't have
yeah,
any towns that are 50 miles apart. Forget it. No.
yeah. So you're driving, and I'm thinking, yeah, because I used to live in this little town in Golden Valley and Zap, and man, just a little rinky. There was nothing in these towns, but I had to commute a long ways to my job,
Mhm.
and I'm thinking, wow, this is crazy. But if you wanted to work in town, there was nowhere to go. There was a post office. That
Yeah.
was literally it. And there was a bar that was open like a couple nights a week. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever.
Well, in this town, this is a city of 40,000 people,
Yep.
and yeah, you got everything here. I have a supermarket across the street from me. I got a doctor over there, a doctor over there, a bank right on that corner.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
whatever
You
I
don't
need
even
is like right
you
here.
don't have to even leave your small little area. You
I
just
don't.
yeah.
Yeah, and I
So
don't.
there you go. Well, we should wrap this up before we get too long. But thank you everybody for coming. We had a big crowd, lasted a long time. We had 20, what, 5 people, 28 people, I think, at
That's
one point.
good.
We're
Yeah.
down to 18 now, but thank you everybody for coming. Isby stuck in there. Musgrave Griffin, she says she's here. Our grocery is 33 plus miles from our property. Yeah, that's like out
Wow.
here too. I don't know where she's but that's
She's like in the central United States.
yeah. Yeah, because like out here, yeah, if I wasn't here in this area, I'd be 30 miles from town in any direction to the next one. Mary Wins, thank you for coming. Lucky Stone and Book 33. Yes, came in late and is enjoying the show with us. Smoking G Sharp, thank you for coming. We'll catch up with you later. And okay, so anyway, thank you. It's been a great show. We learned a lot. We're gonna have to do a part 2 on this because
Sure.
this is an amazing thought on how the world started, and now we're up to, we went to the caveman, beginning of time. They're building civilizations, and they still have all the same problems we do now.
Exactly. And also, this discussion is kind of valuable because it compares and contrasts like a European viewpoint versus an American viewpoint.
Yeah, yeah.
Despite the fact that, American culture is 100% based on European culture,
Mm-hmm.
it's
The only
still
thing
like
is
an interesting,
we
interesting dichotomy.
yeah, well, the thing is Europe, like you said, was packed jammed. They'd already cut down the trees. They killed all the animals. They were living in this. You weren't going to go outside and get eaten by a wolf or attacked by a bear. They killed them all off years ago.
Exactly. Yeah.
But here, it was an untamed land. We cut down the tree. You could just go outside and build yourself a house. You didn't have to get
Hmm.
stone. You just cut the tree down next door,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
life was good, and we're still doing it. As you keep getting to the west, there's still bear and moose and elk, and I just seen some elk the other day. I had to put it on the YouTube thing here, but
Interesting.
yeah, there a big herd of elk come running through. I was like, holy crap, I wouldn't want to hit one of those with the truck, but
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're there
I
yet.
I hit a deer last year, and yeah, it didn't take the whole front thing, front mask off, but it damaged it quite substantially, and it cost me, a couple of bucks to have it fixed. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, it's all expensive. Yeah, I hear saying, but you hit an elk. Elks are
Huge.
they're 800, 900 pounds sometimes.
Yeah, that's
They're big. You total your car, you're done.
uh
But yeah, but anyway, thank you everyone for coming. Remember, go out, enjoy your culture while you got it. Celebrate all those culture things you don't know where they came from or why you're doing them.
Mhm.
In this, 'tis the season, like Thanksgiving. We're celebrating Thanksgiving at the end of the month here. And
Yeah,
I bet you half the people here don't even know why. And we're going to find out. And the real
sure.
reason. And was it made up? There you go.
Mhm.
That's a good question. Ask yourself, do the homework. Let me know if you find out. I got the email. Don't forget to join Nina tomorrow. And she put her thing in the thing. Join her tomorrow on Nina the Mystic Sunday Live. And she's going to have Amber Dawn on. And that is going to be a great show. Amber is so cool. She is a psychic like you wouldn't believe. She's in tune. I tell you that. So there you
Cool.
go. And smile at your neighbor, say something nice. And remember, everybody, go out, most importantly, and be the frequency you want to receive, everyone. Love you all. Peace, everybody. There you go. Hot